He's less than a year into his tenure as Air France-KLM's Group CEO. Ben Smith's turnaround plan seems to be bearing fruit. The shares are up 8% higher in Paris today after the airline's Q2 earnings rose more than expected. Falling costs were mainly the reason. Air France also revealed it's revamping its fleet. It's retiring its 10 Airbus A380 superjumbos. I spoke to Ben Smith and he told me the decision was simply a matter of economics.
The amount of money that we were looking at in terms of investment over the near term to ensure that these airplanes were competitive in the markets where we fly, we're going to require a 30 to 40 million euro cabin investment to bring the products up to industry standard, and then the maintenance investment around engines and the airframe are going to be another 50 million euros per aircraft. And then when you take into account the operational challenges we have with a small fleet, the fact that Airbus has decided to discontinue making the A380, we made the decision that it was best for the group to retire the airplane and not make these expensive investments, and to replace the airplanes with more efficient current technology.
When you arrived at Air France-KLM, you arrived at a group and a series of carriers that are in some trouble. They have great legacies, they have great roots, they have great everything. But the group was, and arguably still is, in trouble. How are you turning it round?
Well, when I arrived last September, so about 10 months ago, Air France, the Air France side of the business, was in the middle of a major social crisis. I had a very big strike last year, costing in excess of 300 million euros, and quite a number of outstanding contracts that had yet to be successfully negotiated. So there was a big focus on finding stability on the social side at Air France, and that, happy to say, has been achieved.
Finally, I just want to talk about the group. At the end of the day, the Air France-KLM group does not, or has not in the past, seemed to operate as smoothly as, say, the Lufthansa group with the Austrian and the Swiss, or even the IAG group with Iberia as the other major airline. And the clearest evidence of that, Ben, no matter how much the airline may deny it, is the fact that the Dutch government bought a stake. Now, that might be in the past, but I think you might agree that more needs to be done to make Air France-KLM operate as a single group.
Yeah, I think we've made some very good steps. I'm the first non-French CEO of the group. I do not have a direct role with the operations at Air France, nor with KLM. So this is a new position at the group. We do have a non-executive chair that was not in place before, and we've re-clarified the managerial governance of the group to better set up so that we can optimize all the strengths of the different brands that we have. So this is an important first step. And then, when you look at the power of some of our assets, in particular our joint venture with Delta across the Atlantic, you look at the power of the sales and revenue management teams that we have, I think we can compete just as effectively as Star Alliance and Oneworld in the markets in which we compete.
Right, but that's exactly my point, Ben. That is the issue, isn't it? It's getting both sides of the Air France-KLM group to be more effective so that it's 1 + 1 = 3 or 4. And the argument would be that so far that hasn't happened, and that's what you've been brought in to do.
Correct. We have 3 brands at the group. Obviously Air France-KLM are the 2 biggest brands that we have, but it's not just leveraging the power of the combination of Air France-KLM, it's also fully leveraging the 2 operations we have with Transavia in, as you know, in Europe, the very competitive low-cost part of the business. So, this is, Air France-KLM has not been as agile and as competitive as some of the other players in Europe, and this is obviously one of the major objectives that I have.